Philadelphia Councilwoman Marian Tasco is retiring from her sixth term as councilwoman this weekend, and she's going to collect a pension of nearly $500,000. And on Monday, she is going to come out of retirement to be sworn in again for her seventh term. She keeps it both, and it's all legal. Just another example of huge public sector payouts taking advantages of loopholes in the law that waste your taxpayer money. And they have to change. In 2012 would be a good time. We welcome our power players, Lenore Hawkins, David Webb, and David Mercer. We're going to talk today about what needs to change in the next year. David Webb, starting with you.
Let's start with Marian Tasco, okay? Before we get to her, though, domestic energy policy. We need production, we need manufacturing, liquid natural gas, oil, resources, nuclear. We need to expand our nuclear plants in this country. We've halted 2 or 3 of them since Fukushima. The fact is that that has a downline in the economy of providing purchasing power, community support. People are going to restaurants, they're working. It just is such a huge factor. We have to open up.
Lenore, for the first time in 100 years, we have the potential of becoming energy self-sufficient in this country. It is an incredible gift that we have, and we're looking at gift horse in a mouth, right?
Well, that just goes along with the rest of government hubris. I think for 2012, the big thing that we need in this country is a major injection of humility and reality at all levels of government, where government looks at what it is capable of doing and what it ought to do. Unfortunately, for governments, there is no sort of magical Midas touch whereby they can take $1 from the private sector and miraculously turn it into $2, $3, or $4. Yet that's the base premise for much of this stimulus. Government cannot create jobs. It cannot grow the economy. All it can do is provide an environment that is either conducive to or detrimental to success.
Well, you're wrong, though, Lenore. It can create things for itself. I mean, that's the whole example of Marian. They're very good at creating money for themselves, right?
But that's not growing the economy. No. All it can do is a further drain on the economy. It can grow itself, much like a parasite does. But I wouldn't say that that's going to be conducive to a healthy and robust economy.
David Mercer, what are you looking for to change in 2012?
Well, going to what was just said in terms of creating a conducive environment for growth and productivity, I would encourage the other 42 states to follow 8 states like Colorado, Vermont, Florida, and others that just raised their minimum wage by 30 cents, 37 cents on average. And it's about time, especially when you look at the Bloomberg News report that says from 1967 to 2010, that the wages have actually fallen by 20% to the average worker. So it's about high time that other states follow suit of those that just did raise the minimum wage, to have it in recognition of the productivity of the American worker and to be valued. And in doing so, you get higher consumer confidence, you then get demand, and with demand, we all know you get employers hiring more workers and productivity.
Okay, David Webb.
I hear this point a lot, but what it doesn't work. What you need to do is increase the value of the dollar, David. You do that also by lowering taxes on communities and businesses. Raising the wage only depresses hiring, and that is also a fact.
Well, and Lenore,
that's not a fact, and you can ask the millions of people that are going to be receiving those additional or that addition in their minimum wage hike.
Okay, but the point is that the people who are suffering more than anybody right now are young people looking for work and minorities looking for work, and those are the people who may not find a job if you raise the minimum wage, David.
David, I would argue, as I just mentioned, that by having more money in the pockets of those that are hired and that are working, they then will go out and they may make another run to the gas station.
You know what, that is
they may make a run to the grocery store. That increases demand, which then forces employers to hire more workers that you just mentioned.
Okay, I heard you, David. Go ahead, David.
Payroll tax holiday, $1,000 a year, $83.33 a month, has failed to produce any jobs. You cannot just transfer wealth and create wealth.
Okay, guys, we got to switch topics, and we're going to have very short answers from you because we're tight on time. Consumers were outraged over a new Verizon fee that would add $2 to your bill if you paid online. Then the government got involved, and now Verizon is backing off. So was it government pressure or consumer outrage that caused Verizon to change its mind? David Mercer, very quickly, what do you think?
Sure. Consumers beat the FCC to the punch. And it's a shame that Verizon hasn't taken heed from Bank of America or others in gouging the American consumer.
All right, we got to do this quick, gang. Lenore, what about all the pressure from the regulators? They put it on AT&T. They stopped doing the deal. They put it on Boeing. There was the dispute with NLRB. Was it government pressure, regulatory pressure that caused them to do the turnaround here?
Absolutely not. It's customers. We have a perfect feedback mechanism. Customers loudly complaining. That's it.
Good.
Government doesn't need to tell businesses how to run themselves.
David Webb?
I don't like government pressure. Consumer and the free market works. Verizon heard from people like my mother, a Verizon customer.
Did she call?
Yes, absolutely.
Good for her.
And that's what she needs to work. The free market tells Verizon what to do.
The market still works, gangs. David, Lenore, we'll hear more from our panel coming up. Well, 2011 is almost finished, and thanks to the Greens, so are the light bulbs that Thomas Edison invented. But we're going to be talking to a businessman who knows firsthand how much it costs to change history. He makes these. Well, if you enjoy a drink after work, and who doesn't at happy hour, forget it. If you live in Utah, if you need some NyQuil for your cold, you're going to need a prescription if you're in California. And if you're a fire eater in Nevada, you're going to need to get a certificate from the fire marshal. These are just a few of the hundreds of new laws and regs that go into effect in 2012. To help make sense of all this, we welcome back our power players. You know, David Mercer, there used to be a rule, it was the Jesse Ventura rule. If somebody's stupid enough to do something to kill themselves and hurt nobody else, you should just let them do it. What do you think of that?
Well, or if you look stupid enough, you might have people lobbying for a law like you have in Illinois on the motorcycle law, where if a red light is a little too long and you don't have traffic, you can go through the red light if you're a motorcycle rider. I think the Hells Angels had a lot to do with probably lobbying for that law, and I call it the don't look stupid law, or don't make us look stupid standing at a red light for too long.
But Lenore Hawkins, there are these stupid laws, these laws written for stupid people. If people are stupid enough to risk their own lives, as long as they're not hurting anybody else, let them lose their lives. It's up to them, right? It's not up to the government to prevent them from doing it.
You can't outlaw poor judgment. We'll never keep up with it. These are just examples of the government having entirely too much faith in its own sense of judgment. And I'm in California. Why are they banning my use of NyQuil? The world will not be a better place when I don't have my NyQuil.
Well,
how can we outlaw something that could be used dangerously? If that's the case, then outlaw fertilizer, outlaw cars. They can be used inappropriately, outlaw knives.
And banning happy hour. I mean, David Webb, that is almost, there's something un-American about banning happy hour, no?
Right, especially when you want to go out and buy your NyQuil, go out and have one before a few drinks at happy hour.
Oh, now you're talking about...
As long as you don't ride your motorcycle through a red light. I mean, look, you know, you're right. You can't, Lenore's right, you can't legislate being smart. If stupidity was a crime, there'd be a lot more politicians in jail, and there should be. Why are we re-electing these people? You know, I had an assemblyman in New Jersey, a friend of mine, come up with one of those feel-good hug me laws after Gabby Giffords was shot. And without the tragedy, he said we should all, you know, try to get along. I called John Bramnick, what are you thinking?
Well, when is the reality of people's disdain, David Mercer, for all these nanny state laws going to catch up with the lawmakers?
Well, that's why we have the ability to repeal laws, and with knowing that we have that ability, with some of these stupid laws, they either can be put to referendum or to recall to come into balance with some common sense.
But they never do, David. And here, I have a book, and I've used it for years in show prep for music shows, talk shows. There are laws that have been on the books since the puritanical days.
Yes.
In Massachusetts, you can't spit on the sidewalk on a Sunday in one town outside of Boston.
Oh,
it's illegal. We never repeal. We never change.
Only witches do that anyway.
That's right. And don't even get into the Salem witch laws, which actually still exist.
Some of them do. Lenore, what about shark fins in soup? You agree that should be illegal, don't you?
Well, if you have a protected species, then yes.
I'm joking. See, that's it. Everybody can always find a way to make these caffeine.
If it's illegal, Oh, good Lord, caffeine and beer. I mean, who chooses that? I'm a stout girl myself, being Irish, but anybody who wants to drink it, go ahead. And how can they stop me? All right, I can just take my beer and throw some Red Bull in.
Hey, guys, have a wonderful, happy, safe New Year. Thank you so much for being here. David Mercer, David Webb, and Lenore Hawkins. Good to see you all. Thanks a lot.
Happy New Year, David.
Happy New Year. Coming up, why I